Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to Jewish Wisdom for Coping with a Pandemic. Um, Today, we will be having our second week exploring the soul trait of equanimity, which in Hebrew is menuchat hanefesh, calmness of the soul. So as is our custom, we shall begin with a short meditation. So please relax in your seat and close your eyes and take in a deep breath through the nose and hold, and exit through the mouth and hold. And again, inhale through the nose and hold, and exhale through the mouth and hold. And as you go at your own pace of inhaling and exhaling, if thoughts should come into your mind, just observe them and let them go. Like watching a car pass by on the road. Now is not the time for solving problems or planning. Right now, all you need to do is inhale through the nose and hold, and exhale through the mouth and hold. And on your next inhale, say to yourself, Shema. And on the exhale, listen. Shema. Listen. And Shema, we're listening deeply, without judgment, without offering advice. And Shema, we are listening with an open heart. Shema, listen. And when you're ready, you may open your eyes. Well, hi, Joanne and Carrie. I see you've joined us. Nice, and Janet, welcome. Okay. So as I said, today we will be doing our second week of equanimity. And so to open our conversation today, I wanted to remind us all of the mantra that we looked at last week, which is surf the wave and do not get crushed by it or swept away. So whether you're here or not, maybe for conversation, how was your equanimity challenge this week? And how did you meet the challenge? I know that for me, I found myself a little bit short-tempered, and there are a lot of minor things which were just irritating me. And I really did come back to this mantra quite a bit. And I would say to myself, okay, it's time to kind of surf through this one. And I would just sort of bring up an issue, an image in my head of myself on a little surfboard. And it did kind of help me just kind of get past the minor irritation before it could become a major irritation. Hey, Paul, nice to see you. Okay, so who would like to, who else would like to share? Yes, Stephanie.
I'm happy to say I'm on my computer instead of my phone, which I cannot seem to master. But anyway, I am dealing with a lot of difficult things right now, a lot of life like future things I have to decide on right now. My job is causing me a lot of stress. I just could not get into this whole idea of surfing the waves. I have been tumbling and tumbling, and it's not a good feeling. I am not sure how to manage all of it. I know that I feel overloaded,
Mm.
and I just don't know how to get through that. And sometimes just a simple phrase like this kind of makes me angry because I'm not navigating the waters very well.
Mm.
And I feel like, is there something else I can hold on to that will help me get through everything? And so I'm really wanting to just keep an open mind today to just hear comments and hope that I can learn, because I think everybody has such great things to offer that I hope I can learn something from everyone today. But I'm really struggling with this.
Thank you, Stephanie. And I'm listening with an open heart. And as I said last week, this is really easy to say, and it's really, really hard to do. And we've all been there where we've had these times where it really is a struggle. And I hope that some other things that we cover today can give you some insights to work with.
Or just how somebody got through like things that they never thought they would be able to handle.
Great. Okay. Well, let's see. I see a whole bunch of hands are up, so we'll start with Janet.
Okay, I wasn't here last week and it shows. I was up last night, it was maybe at 4 in the morning with an anxiety attack over something completely trivial. It was like everything piled up on me. One, yesterday I couldn't find my cell phone in the morning. It wasn't, the Find My Phone app said it was in the house. Well, it wasn't. It was under a car seat. So we couldn't hear the ding, ding, ding because I keep my phone turned off. What else? The shoes I wore to aerobics don't work for aerobics, even though I was sold them particularly to use for aerobics. Third, I'm editing Resource. I call it the phone book, the annual guide to the Jewish community, and somebody in the Jewish community is giving me a hard time with how we're editing things. And I maybe this is an equanimity thing or not, but I ignored her last email. They were going back and forth, crazy. I said, let's give it some time. Fourth, I went to the shoe store and I said, you sold me these shoes for aerobics. And the instructor says they absolutely do not work for aerobics. Well, I got my money back. And what else is new? There was something else that was good. I forget, but that was I'm not doing very well on equanimity.
Yeah.
I'm not a drinker, but I was so upset with the emails going back and forth with this other person that I actually had a glass of sherry before dinner last night.
Well.
But
Well.
as I said to one of my coworkers, they're so glad to have me on board. I came out of mothballs on this assignment in 2017 because I hate doing it. I'm being paid combat pay for it. I'm really being paid for it. But I did it because not because of the combat pay, but because I saw it as a service to the Jewish community. And it is. It's a headache.
Well, thank you, Janet. Yeah, we're listening with an open heart. It sounds like there's a lot of that going around, and there's a lot of sounds like you're struggling with a number of things too. So thank you for sharing that, and hope our conversation today gives us some guidance. Bonnie.
So I've had a good week. And Stephanie, I don't know if it'll help you, but this is,
But just a caution, we don't want to give each other advice.
okay. No, this is just from my own experience, not
Okay.
just letting you know it's my experience. So I've been single now after a very, very long marriage for the last 5 years. And it's not that I didn't know how to do things, it's that we split responsibilities. So every time I've done something new, whether it's big, like buying a house and getting a mortgage and leasing a car, I have a list of every time I do something new that I'd never done before. And I reward myself. And that has been just this gratitude list of doing things I've never done before. Has really helped me to, it can't really, like, it's like this, because if I don't do it, who's going to do it? So again, I'm not giving advice, I'm just sharing my experience. So I had one of those difficult phone calls that I knew was going to be difficult, that I talked about last week. And I went into the phone call on a completely different mindset, which is I have to believe that this representative at whatever company is not out to annoy me and be rude. And so I went in, and at the point that I found myself being snarky, I stepped back and apologized. And that changed the rest of the conversation. And I got what I needed, and I felt better about it. And I think apologizing, even in the middle of it, because I wasn't giving this person a chance to really explain what I needed to do to get accomplished what I needed to do. So I really worked this soul trait, this midah, this week, and I very much appreciate it in my life.
Thank you for sharing that, Bonnie. It's so, it's a good good demonstration of how, a little order, a little planning ahead of time, a little framing of our mindset really can make just a huge difference, even though the irritation came up and the snarkiness came up. It gave you the tools to adjust on the fly. So thank you so much for sharing that. Okay, so we have Nancy, and then I saw Joanne put up her hand, and then we'll have Karen.
Okay, so
But when you open,
So we'll do
Sorry.
Nancy and then Joanne.
Sorry.
okay. So when you open today with calmness of the soul, it just, wow. Okay. So it may not seem much to anybody, but it was to me, because it's about, thinking in the moment, creating possibilities for myself, living a life of wonder and adventure. Okay. So I really was debating whether or not to get my hair cut last Friday. So I ended up going to this new person, and I loved her. It's shorter than I would have gone, but it's a fantastic cut, probably one of the best I've ever had, but it'll grow out. And that was my thinking. If I don't like it, it'll grow out. But this angst that I had, it's like, why am I, okay, so what is it? Surfing, surf the wave, that it'll be okay. And if it's not the end of the world. The other thing is, and she's right here next to me, and I'll probably cry. I'm going to try not to. I adopted a little dog. I lost my other dog last November, and it's taken me a while to decide. And when I saw this little dog, she just tried to kiss me, and she was all over me, and I just cried. And when I left the place, I was crying with my friend, and she's like, oh my God, there's something, there's a bond, there's an initial bond. And I'm like, but what if this happens? What if that happens? And what if she does this? And I'm like, Nancy, calm yourself. What is the worst thing that can happen? The worst thing that can happen is I would have to return her. But the best thing that can happen is I have a friend for the next 10 to 15 years who is absolutely the sweetest thing I have ever come across. And I figured that it's about taking risks for me, because I'm lonely in my house, and I didn't want anything to disrupt my lifestyle.
But you know, what's better than giving a home to an adopted animal that was from a horrible situation? And now I'm going up to Cambria. I'm going to take her to my friends. It's an adventure and it's part of life. And that's what's keeping me going and my soul filled. So that's what equanimity is to me right now.
Mhm.
Well, thank you, Nancy. Thank you so much. And Mazel Tov. Congratulations on the new addition to your household. And I know how difficult it was when your last dog died. And it's, it is about living life. It's a way of living life. So Joanne, and then Karen, and then Martin.
Well, I've had this cat since last July, so it's not quite a year yet. And I planned with my sister-in-law to go up to her. She has a house up in Vermont. She lives in Jersey for the weekend. And I wanted to do all my Shabbos stuff that I do. And, so I had a lot of stuff to organize. I think organization is a big thing, about anything, about planning anything. I got my neighbor to agree to feed her and clean her box, but I was still like anxious that I'll come back in two days, it's like 2.5 days or something like that, and she'll hate me and she'll be mad at me, and none of that happened. And I think I agree with Nancy. I think that's wonderful. Getting a little dog. I want a dog, but I'm not supposed to have one in this building, but a couple of people do. But anyway, the cat is mine and I'm hers, so to speak. I'm her servant, and that's the way it is. And so it helped me, I guess, to have a little equanimity that we'll see, whatever it is when I get back, it is, and I also had I realized Sunday morning up in Vermont that I was supposed to work in the community garden from 4 to 6 on Sunday, but it was also my good friend's birthday, and we were just two of us were meeting with her for kosher Chinese, and I had to just contact them. I tried not to freak out. Contact them. I can't make it. Can I switch my date? No problem. Sometimes we just make things seem like, make a mountain out of a molehill. And it's like people can accommodate you. And, that and this, first, the most important things first. And yeah, and that's it. And then I had okay.
Yeah. Thank you. It sounds like it was really helpful to you for navigating that situation and keeping it from becoming more than it was. So wonderful to hear. Okay, Karen.
So in Alan Marinas' book, I came across a line that is in general helpful, and I'm going to tie it into equanimity. The goal of spiritual life is not to reach complete enlightenment, but instead to become increasingly skilled at the process of living. And equanimity is that soul trait that I have to work incredibly hard at to become more skilled at the process of living. This I call my major test. When I get overwhelmed and I know it, I back up. I just need to give myself distance. I don't need to get above it. I don't need to do anything else. But it really means for me that I've lost my perspective. And for some people, they talk about order. When I can give myself distance, back off, reorder myself with perspective, it's like taking a huge breath. And that gives me a chance to get through stuff. And I have gone through, other than good days, stress to stress and crisis to crisis. Part of that comes from raising a child with significant special needs, a child who has special needs because the child is a sibling of that, and other situations. And just the other day, I was overwhelmed by one of my dog's behaviors. And I thought I really have to get an answer to this. I was beginning to stress out. So I backed up And I went to do some Googling, and what I read was like, oh yes, a reminder, high level, moderate level, low level treats. And I figured out what the high level treat was, and I started to use that, and things got better, and I was able to get myself back in balance. So I thought about equanimity in terms of people issues. And sometimes when I back myself up to get perspective, I have to figure out what it is that I want as the outcome. And that's my high level treat. And I redirect myself to that outcome. I separate this out from everything else, one item at a time, one step at a time. And that helps me regain my balance, my equanimity.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you for sharing that practice for regaining your equanimity. And like so many of us, we have different things that have happened in our life where, you know, it can be really, really hard. And it sounds like you've put together, you know, some coping mechanisms to help you get through, and they very much fit within the Mussar frame. So we listen with an open heart, and thank you for sharing. Let's see, we have Martin and then Marianne. So Martin, if you could remember to unmute, please.
How's that?
Gotcha.
Yeah, thank
Good.
you. Thank you. Thank you for that. Equanimity, very important life skill. Something I remember when, and I have some challenges coming up, is that just to choose to be a happy person, not an angry person.
Mhm.
And I find that it helps me toward this more of the calmness. I have a legal family issue coming up after my father passed away in October. And so we have his estate. I'm the executor, but there's a family member that's not cooperating, and it creates daily grief for me. So just the fact of so I was thinking about today, okay, what's the worst case with this dispute? And I mean, the worst case will be just bottom line, a capital gains tax on a property. But because one of the other family members is not cooperative, it's getting the appraisal process is not going to be easy. I don't believe. So I'll be talking to my attorney just to see what the possible steps are to help that. But as far as equanimity, just to say, okay, just even though it bothers me every day, just choose to be a happy person, not an angry person, because angry is not going to, it's not a benefit to me, and it doesn't solve the problem. So just choosing not to get angry is, I think, part of that equanimity. So,
Yeah, thank you, Martin. And there's a couple things that, and I'm so sorry for your loss, and thank you for sharing your grief and the challenge. And I think, a few things you said we may hearken back to, and what I'm hearing is, I can choose to be a happy person and be feeling grief and be feeling, the challenge of the situation. I don't know if that's how you process it or not, but it's not an either or.
Yeah, it's again, I just got to make sure it's not hurting on my health. So it's so I joined a running club, so I just doing exercise, and that's great for the brain and body. Anyway, so I just have some calls into appraisers today, and they're explaining the situation with a non-cooperative family member. Anyway, so I was thinking about, okay, what's worst case? Okay, worst case is end up paying more capital gains tax. That's worst case. So that's just money. Okay, and then say, okay, now let money affect your health. Well, not a good path. So just trying to keep that. Okay, what's most important, and then personal health is the most important. So, thank you.
Thank you, Martin. Marianne.
So I felt very disappointed in myself yesterday because I wasn't able to hold it together. I find equanimity's easier when things are going well. So I don't know if I guess am I allowed to ask for advice?
I don't think we want to kind of get into giving one another
Advice, okay.
advice.
All right.
So you can sort of share your journey if you wish.
Sure. So yesterday I woke up and had to go in for some urgent dental work. And then I came home to find that my 2-year-old puppy was very ill and I had to take him to an emergency room, and he had surgery, and that's costing me $8,000. Yeah, he would have died without it. And then I saw I'd been bitten by 2 ticks. I don't know if you have them out in California, but Lyme disease is bad out here. And then I came home to find out that one of my close family members is quite depressed. And so I had a hard time holding on to equanimity. So.
Yeah, well, thank you for sharing that, Marianne. And we're listening with an open heart, and that's an awful lot. And I think, again, I think there's maybe some things we can learn about what it means to hold on to equanimity. And does that mean that? I think that'll be a helpful perspective for all of us to review. Okay, so let's use that as, I think, and maybe we'll just kind of get right to that. So may I have a volunteer to read the first bullet, please? And I can't see all of you, so you can just unmute and start to read.
I'll do it.
Great, thank you.
A person who has mastered peace of mind has gained everything. To obtain peace of mind, you need to be at peace with your emotions and desires. Rabbi Simcha Zissel Ziv, The Altar of Kelm.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to stop the share, and then I'm going to copy this into the chat. Okay, so what is Rabbi Simcha Zissel Ziv? What is his point? What is he teaching there? Maybe if we look at the first part, Marjorie, were you starting to say something? Or are you just adjusting your glasses?
Well, both. So for me, the part where it says you need to be at peace with your emotions and desires, those don't always have to be positive for me. I have to be at peace though with decisions I've made, with situations that arise that are not always going to be rosy. Life is full of very negative things, and I just have to think through how I'm going to respond to those situations and be at peace with my response without going too far to one side, especially to the angry, negative side, because it's coming up more and more. Negative emotions are coming up for me. And I just have to decide, what am I going to do? How am I going to react to this? What kind of action am I going to take?
Yeah, thank you, Marjorie. That's beautiful. Sorry, did you have more you were going to say?
I was just going to say Dibarti.
Oh, okay.
Okay. In my old Mussar practice. Okay.
Right, which means in Hebrew, I have spoken. So, you're really talking about, what it might mean to be kind of at peace. And I think the first part of this statement is so powerful. A person who's mastered, peace of mind. Sorry, I'm just going to pull up the quote. Who's mastered peace of mind has gained everything. And I think so many of us were sort of sharing, it's like, wow, I really kind of didn't have peace of mind for all kinds of reasons. And sometimes they were, trivial, and sometimes they were really, really tough. Some very real, I mean, life can throw some situations which are beyond our ability to handle. And so I think Marjorie gave us a good opening, because I really want to kind of explore this. What does it mean to be at peace with your emotions and desires? Or what does it look like not to be at peace with your emotions and desires? Yes, Nancy.
If you put it that way, again, for me, it would be not taking risks, not living my life and just staying stuck and stagnant, which is how I've been feeling for so long. And so if I come to peace with my emotions, it's like, well, it could be worse, or it could be this, or it could be that, but why even continue my mind spinning like that when I don't even know what it's going to be? Take the chance and respond in the best way possible. And that would be checking in with my emotions. But my desire would have been met because if you don't do it, you're never gonna know. So that's kind of what it means to me.
Yeah, thank you, Nancy. And let me see if I get this right. So it's like, okay, there's something you want to do, and you kind of feel like you've been a little bit stuck. So you would want to do something, and then you get afraid and you back off and not do it. So it's like, okay, I'm going to be at peace with being afraid. It's like, yeah, I'm going to be afraid, and I'm just going to go for it anyway. And I'm going to accept that I'm feeling afraid, and we'll see what happens. Is that right? Great, thank you. Okay, we have Paul, and then we have Karen. And I think it's Paul because he's sitting forward, not Carrie. So, hey, Paul, nice to see you. And I haven't said hi to Grace, who joined us as well. So hi, Grace.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, this is really interesting. I was a peace of mind piece. When I was young, I read Siddhartha by Hermann Hesse. And that was such a transformative book for me in terms of seeing a character, because I read nothing but science fiction before that, which had, cardboard cutouts for people and stuff like that. This was a real person going through real life. And, just seeing that there was this path of going through life, living, because the character in the book, in case you haven't read it, lives all these different lives, is helps to keep the books in an ongoing business, is very wealthy, is very poor, all kinds of things. And it was just amazing, just the ability to be at peace ultimately in all that. And I think that now that was when, like 50 years ago for me when I read that. And it's taken me 50 years to really start to figure out what was going on, at least what works for me. And what works for me is, really this the surfing of the wave is a really interesting, kind of a metaphor, which sometimes feels like it's right for me. And many times, though, it is, I think, more what Karen was saying, where I need to put myself, sort of step back and not feel, because my first experience with emotions sometimes is negative. I feel like, because an emotion comes up, I don't like it. I was raised not to be nice. I mean, not to be mean. So all of a sudden, I'm giving myself shit about being mean, and then I can cycle downward from there. So I need to give myself some space, pull back, institute some order, and then I can have that space to consider what it is that's happening, and give myself some time, and whoever else is in that interaction, in my mind anyway, to just to not be tied up with those emotions. So in terms of the peace of mind is being at peace with emotions and desires, it really is allowing myself to be angry, to be nasty, to be snarky, but that doesn't mean I have to act on it. I mean, lots of things happen in my head and I never let them out. that doesn't mean to get them bottled up, but for me, it means to allow myself to be okay with the fact, yeah, I mean, I have all kinds of snark things going on in my head, but how I behave and how I act on those is really important. So that's what I try to hold to. And if I don't succeed sometimes, then again, I have to just be really charitable with myself about that. So
Thank you,
thank you.
Paul. There was a bunch of great stuff in there. And I think, you know, this whole idea about not giving myself shit, being charitable with myself, those are good phrases for being at peace with. And I was thinking about, you know, I started saying, well, I used the surfing mantra a lot and it helped me, but it didn't always help me. And I did have a bit of a difficult week. And there were a couple of times where I was just like, you know, what is the matter with me? And that's where I'm going down the what's the matter with me road. I am no longer at peace with my emotions. It's not, oh boy, poor, you know, geez, I'm having a rough time. I gotta take it a little more easy. It's suddenly something is wrong with me. And I'm also glad that you said that the surfing metaphor didn't work for you. I know Stephanie mentioned that as well. Not all of these metaphors work for all of us. And it's just one idea. There's a lot of possible mantras. There's a lot of metaphors. And it's, as we explore this a bit more, we find the metaphor that can work for us. And it sounds like you found some approaches. Karen had talked about some approaches which aren't really about surfing. It's about, you know, stopping and retrenching and what have you. So thank you. Speaking of Karen, you are up next.
As I was listening to Paul, and I totally agree with him, I was thinking that emotions and desires are different from behaviors. And I have learned to be comfortable with my emotions and desires. And as Paul said, I can be angry and that's the right emotion and I'm okay with it. But there may be some behaviors that go along with that that I would not aspire to. And I did read somewhere in Mussar, and I don't remember who said this. The gist of it is that I was associating peace of mind with a real calm. And if you reach a place where you're just calm all the time, it's a little like being a sleeper in a coma. And so it's okay to have passionate emotions and desires as long as we can bring ourselves back into balance. It's the behaviors that I think sometimes when I say I'm not happy with a way I responded, it's really not about the emotion I was having. That doesn't need to be delegitimized, but the behavior may not have been appropriate. And so I never really want to be calm now, ever since I heard this phrase that put calm and coma in the same sentence in terms of peace of mind, calm all the time, because then it's as if there's nothing that triggers me to want to do better, to make changes, to strive for something. So just thought I would share that.
Thank you, Karen. That's a really important distinction. And you notice he says peace of mind is everything. And he didn't say you achieve peace of mind by suppressing your emotions. You achieve peace of mind by never having emotions. You know, that's not what it says, you know, because that's not possible. Or as, you know, I love that, you know, calm, coma, you know, it's not about that, you know, that's not the human experience. It's about being at peace with those emotions. You know, or as I like to say, it's about not throwing gas on the fire, you know, when it starts to burn. Janet.
I just thought of the word, when a ship is becalmed, what does that mean? It means nobody's moving.
Yeah. Means you're kind of in doo-doo, I think, if you're
Yeah, I mean, so that, if you look at that metaphor, there are dangers in being too calm.
Yes. Well, that is a great segue for our breakout group for today. Let's see. So, because this is exactly the topic. Okay, let me come back to Zoom and then I will share. sort of amazed that this is kind of where we've gotten to, because this is exactly so. Rabbi Israel Salanter wrote that as long as one lives a life of calmness and tranquility in the service of God, it is clear that he is remote from true service. So, service of God service of the divine, might mean a lot of things to a lot of people, but somehow calmness and tranquility doesn't seem like a trait that he is recommending. So we've sort of started to explore this, but with your partner, you could talk about the difference between tranquility and equanimity. Do you think equanimity is a better goal? And then what might the connection to service be? So I'm going to put this in the chat. So, okay, Stephanie, I saw your note, understand completely. So I'm going to start setting up the breakout rooms now.
I'll be right back.
Okay, so the rooms are open. Oh, Karen and Grace, there we go. Okay, well, for those of you who've been watching, so I would love to hear how were your conversations? What insights did you have about equanimity and tranquility, or some of the other kind of prompts that were there?
Okay.
Joanne.
Well, I think we decided that tranquility, I mean, like we said, if the sea is too becalmed, the boat's not going anywhere. And equanimity, it's like you got wind in your sails and you need to steer and have a direction and the goal. And that, to me, that's the difference. One difference, that equanimity requires you to live your life and take actions and deal with the consequences as best you can and not get thrown too much by other people and things.
Yeah, I love that. We're sort of back to a different type of ocean. Ocean metaphor is not being becalmed, it's steering and living your life. Thank you. Okay, so we're not quite to speed round time, but we're getting there. So so Paul, and then Janet, and then Martin.
So similar to what Joanne just mentioned, that it was, I think we had a really animated conversation about it. And it was a lot of fun. But really, it felt like the tranquility was something that I like to experience occasionally. But as I was mentioning, I went through my first divorce when I was 25. And my sense of tranquility there was because I totally shut myself off from my despair and all the emotions that were going on. That was the only way I could achieve any kind of tranquility. So tranquility for me is I'm able to achieve that now. And it's a state that I can have occasionally, which is really wonderful when it does happen. I was thinking just last night that being up in the mountains, being up in Banff National Forest, for instance, and just listening to the wind was amazing. But that's not where I can live, and equanimity is where I live, and that's where it's much more dynamic, and it's, yes, I can be pushed around by other things, but my sense of being able to stay balanced with that is the important part. So that's my.
Thank you. Thank you, Paul. Okay, Janet. And then Martin.
Yeah, I liked what Paul had to say was recognize earlier about recognizing your frustrations and anger sometimes, but not necessarily acting on it. And I also wanted to conclude my story about my frustrations with the shoes, et cetera, et cetera. They were very expensive. So I returned them and I got credit, and then I got into my car and KDFC classical music was playing, I think some Brandenburg concerti, and I immediately started calming down. And when I got off the phone, when I parked the car, I went and gave them a donation. Not as much as the shoes cost, but still quite a bit, a little more than I would have otherwise. And, was I becalmed? No, I mean, I acted on it, right?
Mhm. Beautiful. Thank you, Janet. Martin. So Martin, please remember to unmute.
Great, thank you. You can hear me?
Yes.
The similar comments about tranquility, that if we stayed in tranquility, indefinitely, I use the phrase almost like a little emotional numbness. So the other person, Karen, I think mentioned about, or someone else mentioned about, with equanimity, you have a wind in your sails. So therefore, you're more open to challenges. And then Karen said something interesting about, okay, so say if the challenge becomes, overwhelming to some level. I think about one of the astronauts in space when he looked down at the Earth, and he said, okay, and it's also the same phrase from Casablanca. The problems between two people can be not very big hill compared. Anyway, but I remember the guy from space saying, imagine seeing yourselves with your issue from that perspective. How big of a deal is it? And so sometimes I'll use that to help for equanimity, just when there's something really big and insurmountable. I say, well, okay, let's take a look at that from that perspective. Karen also said something about interesting with equanimity is a challenge where a chance where you might have to wrestle with an issue. And I think, isn't it Adam mean wrestling with God or something like that?
Israel.
At Israel.
Israel, yes. God wrestlers.
God wrestlers. Anyway, so I thought so. Wrestling can be a good thing as long as we have the tools to help manage that. Anyway, so that's what we discussed.
Absolutely. Not only is it a good thing, it's a fundamental part of our peoplehood.
Yes.
Yeah. So we're great connection. Well, I was looking through during the breakout rooms, I was looking through material, and it seems like there's an awful lot of energy around this, and there's definitely enough to sort of continue. So if people are interested, we could roll over for a third week and continue. I see a couple of thumbs up and some nods. Okay, great. So we will do that. And so for now, let's all once again, we'll close our circle for the day. So close your eyes and relax in the chair. Taking a deep breath through the nose and hold. And exhale through the mouth and hold. Notice the light that is filtering through your eyelids. This is the light of your divine spark. And imagine as your emotions are beginning to arise, and you feel yourself starting to stray into irritation that might lead you to say something unfortunate. or some self-recrimination. Imagine the light, your divine spark, providing warmth and love and self-compassion, allowing you to step back and stop and choose a different path. The emotion is still there, but we can accept it and know that it's okay. And continue to pilot our boat. Let's take a moment of gratitude for all of the souls who've chosen to share this journey with us today. When you are ready, you may open your eyes. Well, friends, thank you so much for being with us today. I wish you a good week. And I hope to see you next week, except Bonnie, who will be in Maui and on the beach or enjoying herself.
Oh.
That'll be fun.